Safety 365.
Welcome back to Safety 365, where our goal is to help you navigate more safely through your daily activities and understand the importance of taking proactive measures to safeguard yourself. Today we'll be addressing the topic of church safety and security. I am joined today by my guest, Micah Bender, the owner and operator of Heavenly Arm LLC. Micah, thank you for coming in today.
Thanks for having me, Bill.
Hey, it's great to see you again. Micah and I go way back when he was just a kid, basically. Micah, give me a little bit about your background, how we met, and...
Well, I started out years ago. I've been a martial artist my entire life, and when I was probably about 18, 19 years old, I started competing and teaching and all these things, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, boxing, and...
Which he's used against me many times.
I was just going to say, there was a nice gentleman who came in named Mr. Bill Barna, and I've had the luxury of putting him in tons of submission holds and hitting him in the face and all the other things throughout the years.
My favorite move was the tap out. It seemed to work for me.
It's a good one.
But Micah's been around for quite a while. Most of his past, I would say, is very defensive and aggressive. It looks like he's kind of turned the corner on us, and he's doing something a lot different to help other people. He's really reaching out and making a difference in the world here and in this crazy society we live in. But before we get any further on that, I do want to get started with what I like to call our safety question of the day. What was the deadliest shooting in an American place of worship in the United States? Throwing zingers already.
Throwing zingers.
What is the deadliest shooting in an American place of worship?
I'm trying to think.
Not too long ago. All right, I'm going to throw it out there.
Throw it out there.
It was the First Baptist Church in Sutherland Springs, Texas.
Okay.
That shooting occurred on November 5th in 2017. That resulted in 26 people being killed and 22 wounded. A former NRA firearms instructor actually gave chase and returned fire, striking the perpetrator twice before he fled. In all, 700 rounds were utilized in 11 minutes. Now, anybody knows anything about firearms, 700 rounds is a lot of rounds. Let's not just talk about speed, but let's talk about money. The cost of ammunition today.
That's insane.
So this guy actually prepared to go into this church and cause damage. But that shouldn't shock us. We see more and more of it every day. But I guess my question is, why would somebody even want to attack a house of worship?
I've done a lot of research lately, over the last couple of years looking into these things. One is definitely the culture that we're living in today. It is more of a godless style society, and the idea of God and worship, and regardless of what type of faith you have, whether you're Jewish or Muslim, Christian, whatever, they become targets just because of their faith.
I don't like you because you're different than me.
That's what it is. That's
right.
What it is. Secondarily, there's a lot of personal attack reasoning. Example would be, maybe my ex-wife is in there with a new guy.
Oh yeah.
I'm mad because it was a sloppy breakup. I lost everything. I lost my money, my house, my kids, and he just wants revenge. That's unfortunately very common.
But Micah, when I was a youngster going to school, or going to church, I keep hearing this song reverberating in my head. Make new friends, keep the old. One is silver and the other's gold. Mm-hmm. What happened to that, man? We were all supposed to get along.
Our world's changed, unfortunately, and we would need a lot longer than we have today to go over all the different things.
Yeah, put on a pot of coffee and
we'd be sitting here for a minute. But the way that the world has turned, the values and morals that we used to have in America and just in our area.
No, the erosion of morals, that's easy to see. Turn on the TV.
100%. There's shootings every day. There's stabbings. Look what's going on in New York. Random elderlies are getting mugged and beaten.
Yeah. For no reason.
For no reason, just because it's fun.
I'm going to take what you have. I'm going to show you who I am.
Yep.
It's kind of crazy because since the mid-2000s, churches, temples, mosques, synagogues have all become more frequent targets of this. So I actually looked into it myself, and from 1966 to 2000, only 1% of mass shootings were motivated by religious hate. Only 1%, and that's a huge time frame. From 2000 to 2014, that number jumped to 9%.
Yep.
Now, stinger. Between 2018 and 2020, the number skyrocketed to 17%. I mean, have we worked so hard as a society to remove God from daily life?
I think so. I think so.
I mean, and why? Because it sells?
Probably. I mean, that seems to be the number one thing.
Are we that rebellious that we want to rebel against authority? And obviously, God is the ultimate authority. So we'll show our disdain and we'll just rebel against God. We'll take him out of school. We'll take him out of our workplace.
Take him out of everything.
And we'll just take him out of our life completely. I mean, don't turn on the TV, folks, because you're not going to see a whole lot.
Well, I think that and the idea of church has becoming a business also had a lot to do with it. There's a lot of
like these mega churches and these people making the money off of it. Well, beware of false prophets, right?
Yes, and I think people maybe get a bad taste in their mouth, or I mean, look at the war. Look at 9/11 and how the Muslim population became such a target.
Sure.
After that, just because of the fear of 9/11.
Well, let's go back a little bit further. What about Pearl Harbor?
Oh yeah.
We rounded up tons of people that didn't look like us and put them into camps just to contain them because we didn't know what the heck was going on.
That's right. And that's, it's an unfortunate thing about humans is that we tend to, when something bad happens, we tend to generalize everything. If you look this way, if you act this way, if you're part of this organization, whatever it might be, well, I know that's anti what I am. So now all of a sudden you're a bad guy. We don't look at the individual, we look at the group.
Well, golly, I mean, as a former law enforcement officer, isn't that profiling?
100% profiling.
Wow.
100%.
Wow, and that's a bad thing, right?
Very bad thing. Very
Honest,
bad thing.
I always thought profiling was more of what you're doing, not what you look like.
And that's how it should be. I should be able to see you as a person first. And that's the thing. Anyone who's truly religious, who's truly godly, I can't speak for all the different religions, but at least we're in the form of Christianity that I follow. I don't care what your beliefs are. I see you as a child of God first. I see you as a person. And if we have differences, so be it. That's fine. I'm still going to value you as a human being, And we'll talk more about how I tie that into what I do.
Sure. Well, and to also say, you're working right now is in corrections, correct? Okay. So, I mean, at a federal level.
Yes.
So, I'm sure you see probably not the best of the best at times. Likewise, with my law enforcement career, we don't see the best of the best. But there's always hope for people. And I think where you see them in a facility, a federal facility, you probably do see a lot of conversion, a lot of change.
You do. You do.
Because I'm a firm believer, without getting too heavily theological here, but I'm a firm believer. God's going to let you go so far.
He'll reel you in.
And then he's going to smack you in the face with something big. And that's when you're going to recognize him. And that's when your change is going to be made.
That's how it happened for me.
Hey, my right hand is up. Yeah. Not that I was ever a truly bad guy, but you know what? We all stray from the path from time to time. Yeah. Anyways, that's we can really get into this one. Another
that'll be the next
coffee.
time we do this. Yeah.
We'll get Nate to get another cup of coffee here. So what we're seeing is, the perpetrators of these crimes have history of racism, anti-Semitism, anti-Christianity, Islamophobia, whatever phobia or others are out there. That's why they're doing these things. While there's no single profile of a mass shooter, there are several similar characteristics of shooters who commit crimes at houses of worship. Number one, they're pretty much all male. Mm-hmm. Okay. They're 75% white and 64% single. The biggest thing here, 66% of them had criminal records, but 66% of them experienced serious childhood trauma. Now, in and of itself, we've all had our traumatic moments as kids, whether you didn't get to watch Barney when you wanted to, or you had to come in when the streetlights came on, and that was traumatic to you. That probably left a sting in your system. But I think serious childhood trauma is the root cause of a lot of this.
It is.
And I think the root cause of a lot of this childhood trauma is the breakdown of the nuclear family. We don't have the moms and dads involved as a unit, as a team, to raise the child anymore. We have a mom, maybe a dad, maybe a weekend dad, and either side trying to use the child against the other parent.
Yep.
So combine that with taking God out of everything, and we have a serious recipe for childhood trauma to be created.
Well, and may I?
Yeah, man.
I
in.
think I was just talking to a friend of mine yesterday at work about this. I believe, I shouldn't speak for him, that a lot of this too is because, like you said, the father may be absent, the mother may be absent, maybe both are absent. Maybe they're using the child as a tool against the other one for whatever reason. But ultimately, it comes down that these children don't learn coping mechanisms. They don't. They don't have. And I'll just use the example of a little boy gets beat up in school, right? Comes home, talks to his dad. Dad's not there. Then how's he learn how to deal with this?
Right. What's mom going to tell him?
Mom.
Not to say that mom can't.
100%. I was just going to say, moms could definitely do it, but there's a masculinity that's needed in that situation. A fellow male, a fellow man that you look up to,
right?
Telling you, listen, this happens. I got my butt kicked many times throughout the years. You do X, Y, Z. You learn this. You learn that. Whatever. Well, now that's absent. They let that anger form into hatred over years of getting picked on by this person, beat up by this, getting teased for whatever reason. They just get bullied over the years. They don't have a mechanism
and
to cope.
They're going to find a way to have control.
And that's what it is. And they want that control. So what happens is, well, I know this gun works. I know they'll respect me. They'll fear me. And they don't go about it the right way. And of course, it happens in schools, it happens in businesses, it happens in places of worship.
Sure.
That's I'm going to get control now. I want fear. I want action. I want reaction.
And that is the stark fact of everything right there. That's the stark fact of what we're talking about. There is a society that's gotten evil and violent and continually going forth with this to show that, hey, I can't cope, but I will control something, and you're going to be my target. And that's why we're here talking about it. Unfortunately, we're talking about church security. Wow, whoever thought it was going to come to our churches? That's just crazy. Like I said, we went to church. The doors were wide open. You went in. It was a good time, loving feeling. Everybody loved everybody, and there was unity. You were all there for a good purpose. You were in the house of God. But that brings us into why society is eroded to such a level. It's just I don't know. What do you do to worship safely? There's got to be a way, but what is it? I think that leads us into our next segment, which I like to call "You Don't Know What You Don't Know." Gotta love that, right? What a nice little segue. So, in this segment, we'd like to talk about what's going on. Nate loves that song, and he's just jamming today. We know that houses of worship traditionally are gun-free zones, right?
Yes.
No guns. No guns
Usually.
in the church. They are, we like to call, soft targets. What's a soft target? A target that's vulnerable, really doesn't take any precaution against
Right.
being, a victim. They're welcoming. Every church wants you to come in and join them.
Yep.
Come on in. We're all the same. They are generally older populations.
I agree.
Because we've seen the younger generation wants to turn its head away.
Yes.
And go the other direction. Because I guess, you know what? Going to church just isn't fun.
It's not cool either.
It's not cool. Yeah, if you're a churchgoer, you're not cool and you don't know how to have fun.
That's right.
Although churches today are a lot different than churches when I grew up. We didn't have electric guitars and bands and stages and video and, we didn't have video games, period. But they are lacking, most churches lack security measures and are financially strapped. So how do we change these things?
Well,
I mean, we don't know these things, but how do we change these things?
there's a lot of things you can do just from the beginning. I mean, sincerely, it's just the first thing is understanding two key concepts. The first is that the world has changed, which we talked about already. The world has changed. It's not the same world. There is a lot more violence.
But people still want to bury their head in the sand and act like it hasn't
Oh yeah, it's that whole it'll
until
never
it
happen to
hits
me.
them.
That's right.
That's the whole thing. If your house gets broken into on your street, that was them.
That's right.
It didn't happen to me. But when your house gets victimized and broken into, now you're buying every lock you can think of and every security system. It's that knee-jerk reaction.
Yes, sir.
So we need to get them out of that mindset. I didn't mean to cut you off, but that just...
No, you're fine.
Hey,
know?
hey, at age 57, my brain sparks, and if I don't go with it, it's
Go with
gone.
it. Go
So
with it.
I don't have a memory like Nate. So...
I try to tell people, like back when I was teaching jiu-jitsu, you have a fire extinguisher, right, in your home. You have a smoke alarm in your home. You wear your seat belt, not because of the annoying beeping that goes on, but just in the what-if scenario, right?
Sure,
What
you're
if I got in a
prepared.
car wreck? What if the house caught fire? What if X, Y, Z? But for some reason, when it comes to situations where someone is acting against them violently, we tend not to think about that. People tend to think about the accidents, right?
Right, not the intentional violence.
Not the intentional violence, because I don't make anyone mad. I don't have a lot of things. I can't blah, 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 blah. Well, the next thing is, no one does.
One man's junk is another man's
It's treasure.
treasure. Now, it's funny because this morning I just saw in Los Angeles, the police are advising citizens not to wear expensive jewelry when they go out because they're higher risk of being jacked on the street and robbed.
It's
Okay.
insanity.
Wait a minute.
It's insanity.
I mean, it's common sense. You probably don't want to be flashing your stuff around.
Right.
But I guess in LA, that is the thing to do. Go out and flash your Rolex and your whatever, your
Yeah,
diamonds and
it's
gold.
knowing where you are, I think. Like the church that I belong to is in Warren, 403 Atlantic Street, okay? And it's known to be a rougher area.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that. The pastor wanted his church there for that reason, so that he could make a difference in the community.
You're located in a good spot.
And that's why he did that. Now, with that also comes the risks, and he's smart. My pastor, Garrick Matlock, is smart. He understands where he is and what's needed because of his location. These people, like I live in Poland, right? So
Okay, now there's somebody that's devoted. He's driving from Poland to Warren to worship.
every day, every Sunday.
Yeah, that's good haul.
But it's valuable. It has a purpose to me, But in Poland, I've talked to a few churches. Like my kids go to a preschool at a church. I spoke to the teachers and things like that, and like, oh yeah, we have a cop who just sits here for half an hour.
We're comfortable with that.
We're comfortable
Yeah,
because we're in Poland, because we're in a nice area.
It's the cosmetic approach. We know we have to do something.
Yeah.
So
This
let's
is
just do
easy.
something. Let's get Nate over here.
Let's do
just
the
get him a
minimum.
uniform and put him at the front door. Okay,
Yep.
there's our something.
Yep.
We're good, right? We're covered until it happens, and then everybody says, "Why didn't you do more?"
Oh yeah.
So why aren't they doing more? Is it too expensive?
No, it's not. I mean, the thing is, a lot of the things that I try to push churches to do are just actions, no monetary necessity. I mean, in the beginning. Now, granted, there are things you can do to upgrade, bring a security team and things like that. But realistically, all you have to do is, one, have people that are committed to the safety of your church, right? You pick 5 people, 10 people, whatever it is. Put them in places to kind of safe haven their commute from their car to the front door. Something as simple as that.
Why don't they just post a sign that says "No guns allowed here"?
Funny thing about that.
Doesn't that work?
Bad guys don't listen to signs. They don't read the signs. They don't respect the signs.
Well, but I mean, you have a sign there that says "No guns allowed."
That is true. That is true. That should stop everybody.
So, I mean, I would assume that nobody's going to have a gun.
That's a bare minimum.
Yeah.
Bare minimum approach again. Here's a sign that says don't do this. Well, I don't know if you know this about bad guys. Bad guys are very well known for breaking the rules. And it was crazy.
Man, if I could have caught on to that 33 years ago when I started in law enforcement, I'd have really surged. Yeah, I mean, but this is a mentality of some people. Well, we don't allow guns on our property, so we're okay. So the only person that's going to be on your property is going to have a gun,
It's the bad guy.
and he's the bad guy.
Yep.
and he's going to do harm.
Extreme harm.
So to counter that, I mean, well, now don't forget now, our governor just signed into law, and I think it goes into effect in a couple weeks or
April
more.
19th, I think. Something like
Yeah,
that.
something like that,
Something
right?
like that.
April 19th sounds right. You don't no longer have to go and take the CCW classes to carry a concealed weapon. You, by virtue of being you, as long as you're not a criminal and pass the background checks, can carry your firearm. Okay. No, and you don't have to tell law enforcement either. So you can carry it unless there's a sign on the door that says you can't have it in here.
Yeah. So, okay.
So just food for thought. Let that rattle around your brains,
Yeah,
people.
I'm not getting into that one.
Yeah, because we have people using common sense every day, so we shouldn't screen who can carry a firearm. Although I mean I'm all about being able to defend yourself. I think there should be
Procedures.
a procedure. Yeah, I mean even as basic as the 8-hour class we have now for CCW, or had 6 hours in classroom to learn about the gun and 2 hours to actually shoot it and hit the paper target.
I was going to say, there's where I work, there's a training we have to do. It's like a 3-week training. We go down, we travel, we do range work and blah, 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 all these things. And it's amazing to me how many people have zero idea what to do with a firearm.
Right.
I mean,
It's a foreign object.
it is, and that's what it is, and it's a foreign object that can cause a lot of damage if you misuse it. So you take a person who's never shot a gun before, never held a gun before, and say, okay, well, you can just have it now. Carry it around, do whatever you want with
Right.
it. We were joking earlier, take the person who, racks a magazine, racks a slide, and is looking at it, and it's like, how does this thing work? And next thing you know, they're pulling a trigger, shooting their foot off, shooting their hand off,
We see
or worse.
YouTube it.
Yeah.
It's there.
It's all over, and those are people that supposedly know what they're doing.
Right.
Like
Right.
it's to me idiotic.
Everybody should know how to use a firearm. I raised 3 boys. Every one of them was shown how to use a firearm. One, to take the mystery out of it.
Yep.
Which I think once you do that and you show them what it's about and how it's used and how deadly it is, they're not sneaking in Dad's closet
Nope.
trying to pull it out and wave it around. They get it. So I think that's important. But right now we're allowing people just to carry a firearm at will, and they can't handle their own problems. They can't deal with stress. They get cut off in traffic. The first thing that's going to come out is that doggone firearm. I've seen it. I mean, on duty, I pulled people over. I've arrested people because they were road rage. Pulled a firearm. We catch the car down the road. We get the person out. We hook them up. There's something needs to be done there.
Yeah.
But I got strayed a little bit. I got off target.
I'm not helping.
I'm going, no, you're all right, man, because you know what? Firearms are a big thing. And it does lead me into what I wanted to say.
Sure.
So what do the churches do if they're not just going to post a sign saying no guns allowed? What can they do? Allow certain members of their congregation to carry?
You could. What I tend to push more towards is not the firearm approach. I mean, there should be a couple key people that are specifically trained, that do continuing education.
Okay, so reach out towards people that are law enforcement, former military, maybe COs, that have a general understanding
Yes.
of this and can use this firearm.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's crucial. But arming people with just information, the Heavenly ARM, name of my business, ARM is an acronym for Active Response or Armed Response Ministries. We're arming ourselves with knowledge, and that's the key.
Okay.
Learning policies and procedures that you can put in place to lower the chance of, one, being targeted, and two, having a smaller level of success if someone were to attack.
So your organization goes in and works with churches to form a security type of system, a
Yes.
better security.
Yes.
To make them less of a soft target.
Correct. Yeah. So
Okay.
we do a general threat assessment where we go from one end of your property to the other, and we look at everything in between. How much debris is there shrubbery and brush in the way, that might block someone's view. Like our church has a lot of outdoor activities.
Where can people hide?
Where can they hide? Where can they pounce from? Is there adequate lighting? Is there cameras? What kind of doors do you have? Do you have things to barricade your door if something were to happen?
I love the fact that you mentioned cameras, because that's everybody's go-to. I personally am less of a fan of cameras and more of a fan of, let's barricade these doors.
Yep.
Let's make it more secure, because the camera is just going to document
I would say they're good after the fact.
the carnage.
Yep.
Here's what happened. Look, they went in there and they shot 26 people.
I agree.
We got it on film.
But some of the things, like I also prepare myself and try to prepare the churches for not just the active shooter. I mean, I know that's our topic today, but a lot of what I do also is for like robberies and break-ins and
Everything
things
that
like
could
that.
happen on that property.
Yeah, so like the
you
cameras are a
said,
big thing.
Most
for
of your
that.
churches are in less desirable locations, where they may have been a desirable location at one time, but the neighborhood has gone
changed.
downhill. The older people have died off. Younger people have come in.
Yep.
Rentals make it what it is. And then the drug trade just kind of perpetuates,
Yes, sir.
the cycle of destruction. So they are in bad locations. So yeah, you're looking at, not just your parking area. Is it safe for them to park there? Is there
Right.
proper lighting for that? Is the perimeter of the property clear so
Yes.
that people can come in without reservation?
That's why I think there should be an usher. I think there should be one or two people that are out there.
So if let's take Bill's Church of Hope. I just opened it in a very bad section of the inner city, and I bring Heavenly Arm LLC in. In a perfect world, what do you recommend that I put in?
In a perfect world,
In a perfect world, let's say, hey, you know what? Bill's got deep pockets,
okay.
and he wants to make this the best ever for everybody, and let everybody come in.
Believe it or not, I think one of the first things I'd always recommend is fencing around the property with gates.
Okay.
Okay, have a single or
So
two.
make it a monastery.
Make it a monastery.
Right,
I mean,
okay.
really, if this was the perfect world and I can do anything I wanted to it, I would fence the entire property.
Okay.
I would have one or two gates.
Oh, so you're all about borders.
I think that's a good start.
I think it's great. I think it's great. Yeah, let's put up some borders so people know that this property is exclusively for our congregation.
That's right.
Okay.
From there, I would have, of course, the lighting. And I still think the cameras are good to have, for any other situation outside of the active shooter that might happen. I would have people stationed throughout. I would make sure that everything was an open area. There was no hiding spots. Okay. I would make sure that there was lighting, probably at the four corners, right? Not only shining inward but outward,
Okay.
so that there was no secret spots for anyone to come and hop over the fence and try to do anything. I would have the doors of quality. We would look at the doors. We would assess if they were what they were made of, basically.
I want those medieval doors that were like 3 foot thick.
Beautiful.
Solid wood.
Have a big wooden plank to lock the door.
Absolutely,
I love
absolutely.
it. I think that's a good way to do it. But like I said, I think the two biggest things would be the fencing and having the point of ingress being of quality.
Okay.
And then when you run your service, you make sure the door's shut. You can have somebody to unlock the door if there was a late comer or something like that, 100%. But having someone stationed by the door, having a couple people stationed throughout the sanctuary. Now, I don't know if you're going to have kids.
So
class.
which people do you come? Do you just use people out of the congregation?
I believe that's one of the best ways to do it.
Okay, I'm going to be devil's advocate
Sure.
here. All right. So you pick. Nate's always wanted to be in charge of security, and
Good for you,
always
Nate.
wanted to wear that badge and have that power and authority. How do I tell him no? He wants to be the guy that wants to be part of the security team to keep the church safe.
How you just did.
Okay.
No.
Uh,
No.
yeah. Well.
But the thing is,
Then I have a problem, right? Because
100%, yeah.
we
You-
know
you
there's a
start causing
hierarchy, and
distress,
there's
yeah.
yes. Because I look back at the volunteer fireman that goes out and sets fires to buildings, and then he's the first one there to save the day.
right.
Liking
And-
that
and that's a
bravado.
risk. I
And
think
nothing
they're-
against firemen. I think God bless them.
Yeah.
I'd never do their job.
No.
As a police officer, I said, I'm good with what I do, but I'm not doing
I'm
that.
not running into burning buildings.
No, that's
I'm not
just
that
crazy.
brave.
That's a different soul. So
No, I truly believe that it comes to the elders or whatever the head of your church is. You know your people. You know your parishioners. You know your congregation. You can put feelers out, You can talk to individuals, but like
So maybe have a panel.
Have a panel.
That decides who's going to be on
yeah,
the team.
100%.
Okay.
100%.
All right, I'm good with that. I can live with that.
And personally, I believe everyone should have some sort of background investigation done, right? If something were to come back,
Okay.
then okay, let's
And you can do
address
that
this as a
through your
group.
local police department.
You could, yep. Go
Okay.
get your fingerprints there,
Yep.
and weigh the situation. You know, what did they do? How long ago was it? And remember, this is a church, so we tend to have to give the benefit of the doubt to an extent,
Okay.
right? So, like, for prime example,
Because we don't want to seem mean.
No.
Yeah. So I guess there's. I mean, my problem. I'm again just going back and forth with you. The advantage of having your own people do it is you can kind of understand who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
plus they have an invested interest.
They have vested interest in keeping the place safe. Okay, great. The disadvantage I see is the liability it's going to put on you as a church, because without giving them some sort of formalized training, the church has created its own security team and told these guys, do what you think is best.
No. They will be trained.
That's where Heavenly Arm LLC
That's
comes
where-
in.
yes, sir.
You guys come in and you teach them directly. Here's how you formulate your team.
Yes.
Here's how you pick your team. Here's what your team needs to be doing.
Correct.
Here are the areas. So they're gonna go through a complete training, and they're gonna get a certification from you. I'm assuming that they've passed this test,
Yep.
and now the church has something they can go back on and say, listen, our people train.
That's right.
And
That's
they're
right.
going to regularly train.
That's right.
So that this, we create, if nothing else, we reduce our liability,
Yep.
and we create a muscle memory when a critical incident happens.
Correct.
Oh, yeah, man, all over it. Great. All right, just trying to plug away. I'm trying to think, hey, what's Heavenly Arm actually do here?
Right.
So, always a good idea to identify the trained professionals, i.e., that are within your congregation, i.e., the maybe police, law enforcement, EMTs.
I was going to say nurses, things like that.
Yeah,
I
because
mean,
we want to put on some tourniquets.
it's not
fast
only
and-
about the fighting the bad guy. It's also about taking care of the carnage that may have happened.
Yeah, your military, your former
And
military
we do
experience.
offer, a fundamental like CPR, BLS training as well, so people
Okay.
can at least have an understanding of, because again, active shooters do come into churches, but you're also going to have the 70, 80-year-old man during worship have a heart attack.
Oh, right.
So, I like to call it an ERT, not a security team. Security
Okay.
to me it has a certain look or sound to it. But when you say an ERT, an emergency response team, their
Gotcha.
job is to reply and respond to anything that could happen, whether it be a burglary, some disruption comes in.
And you're going to have theft, and you're going to have
have-
allegations, and you're going to formulate your own little mini police department, basically.
That's pretty much, kind of what it is. I also don't believe that they should look like security. There might be one or two people that are stationed like security, and that they're security.
Now, see, I think that at least a couple of them should be clearly marked as
Yeah,
security.
that's what I'm saying. There should be one or two.
So
but
everybody
I
knows
like
those are the
having
guys that go
planners.
to talk to, but then you have the other ones that just kind of blend in like chameleons. You don't
Right.
know what you don't know.
That's exactly it.
It's my favorite saying.
You don't know what you don't
I
know.
always think about when I went to Vegas back in the day. You never saw police or security until they were needed.
That's
and
right.
then they were all over the place. So the best security is the ones you don't see.
Well, and let me ask you this: if I wanted to come into this your place of worship, and my goal was to cause as much harm as possible, who am I going for first?
Pastor.
Pastor,
Or
or
he's gonna be dead center.
what about the guys that I know are going to be there to try to
Or
stop me?
if you have security.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
we're
So-
including the security.
So you're saying if places, I'm going to take out the guys with guns first.
Just like we talked about the cop situation. You have
Sure.
one single cop posted. Who do you think the person's going to shoot first?
Right. Take care of the threat.
Right? Now the cop's gone, he can't call anybody. He can't call for backup. She can't call for backup. Now I can have my way inside this building.
And that you're exactly right. But you bring up another point. Oh, there we go. Calling. You know what? What are we doing for communications? Do we have two-way radios going on in this church?
I think that's what you should have.
I think they need to. That's always. I need to communicate with my other guys
Yeah.
on my.
I've had people
squad.
argue with me about it. I still think there needs to be something in place, some sort of two-way radio, or because like having your phone to just text somebody isn't going to be enough.
Well, can you text
You could.
under stress?
Oh, and under stress? No.
Guess what? What I've learned in police work is you become very survival oriented. Your fine motor skills decrease
Yep.
when that adrenaline surges.
It's all gross muscle movements at that point.
Yeah, man. I mean, you're swinging for the fences with major muscle mass. You cannot manipulate your fingers. So the texting, using the phones, probably not a good idea.
Just beep.
Yeah, if you got somebody at a designated location away from things that can respond to you on the radio, that can make the call, and I'm sure parishioners or a congregation are going to be trying to dial 911 and it's going to flood the switchboard anyways.
Yeah.
But I think two-way communications are huge,
Yeah.
huge.
Well, and off of what you said with the 911 situation, I believe everything has to have a purpose. There has to be a reason for everything you're doing. So if you're on a security team, you are designated to be the caller in terms of like the 911 situation. And the church should know, everybody should be aware of what's going on here. If something were to happen, run drills, run these situations and scenarios and things like that. But also let it be known that your job as the people inside this church is to go X, Y, Z. Go this way, go that way, stay low, get out.
Well, you bring me to another good point. We need to role play. We need to practice. What would happen here? Okay, today we're going to have today's sermon. We're also going to do this. We're going to pretend there's a critical incident, and we're going to need to evacuate.
I mean, look at fighters. Prime example, fighters.
Yeah.
They spar over and over and over and over and over again.
Train like you fight, fight like you train.
That's right. Law enforcement does it.
Right.
We do it at the CO level, right? We do our mock drills and things like that. Oh, this happened, XYZ happened. How do we deal with it? How do we engage? How do we communicate with this person? Try to de-escalate the situation. Oh, it didn't de-escalate. It went upward. How do we deal with this?
There's something to be said for muscle memory and repetitive motion. I think Bruce Lee said it. I don't want to fight the guy that knows 10,000 techniques. I would rather fight the guy that knows 10,000 techniques, not the guy that knows one technique and done it 10,000 times, because he's proficient at that. So if we do role play within our church, we make it safer. We know to do this. Oh, it's how we were ingrained in school. Fire drills, tornado drills. Get out of the building. Do this. Don't do that. Get under your desks. Whatever. I mean, we go back to bomb drills too. They used to just hide underneath the desk for in case of a nuclear bomb. But yeah, I mean, so there are a lot of things that can be done there, and I think you touched on a lot of them. And this is what Heavenly Arm LLC does. They go in there and they evaluate. And I think probably one last point: you only need one entrance. People should only be coming into your church one way.
Oh, yes, yeah.
You can monitor each and every person coming through.
Yes, sir.
Not that we're profiling people, we're profiling actions. And I use old Nate. He's getting beat up today. Nate comes in with a heavy trench coat. He's disheveled. His hands are in his pockets. He's looking squirmish. Man, I mean, as a security team member, I got to be looking at him and saying, we keep an eye on this one. Like, I'm going to stand real close to him.
Yep.
You know what? If he does anything, Nate's going to go to sleep for a little bit.
And the thing is, we have a lot of things that I teach in the curriculum that focus on body language, and microaggressions and just these little things that people might do.
Kinesiology stuff.
But that's, that speaks so much louder than words.
Oh, yeah. You're raising two boys, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. Well, you do the whole thing with the eyes when they go up and to the left, and it's all right, whether they're lying to you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did that with my kids a lot. So, anyways. All right. Well, Mike, I appreciate your everything you've said here. I'm just going to kind of recap. We're getting into our Safety 365 recap, looking back on some of the lessons we learned today. We know that for houses of worship and shooters, that the main characteristics are they are most likely a white male who is single, with prior criminal records, and has sustained serious childhood trauma. We know that to make our houses of worship safer, we need to identify some trained professionals within our group to try and put them onto our security team. Invest in two-way radio so there's communications available during a critical incident. Create a single entrance into the church so that we can monitor who's coming in. They can't come in from 3 or 4 different locations because we cannot cover that. And most of all, and I think is most important because it costs nothing, is to do the what if it happened to hear a role play?
Yes.
And let people build that muscle memory. I think that is hugely important to develop safety. And if you want to know more about this, please contact Heavenly Arm LLC and talk to Micah Bender, because he is definitely an expert in this field and looks forward to helping you out. And I believe right now you're offering a free evaluation.
Mm-hmm. I'm right now, yeah.
For the
first 5 to 10, I'm doing it just like Jesus fasted in the desert for 40 days. For 40 days, any churches I get in the next 40 days, I'm doing a free threat assessment. I'm willing to help them develop a team, and I'm willing to do educational presentations for their congregation at no cost.
That's fantastic. I mean, that's the art of giving right there, and that's somebody that cares about other people. All right. Well, that about wraps us up. In our next episode, we are going to talk about the state of mental health in today's society, which wraps right into about everything we talk about. I'd like to give a special thanks to our show sponsor, Bolo Stick LLC, the door barricade device, providing safety and security to homes, schools, churches, and business locations across 42 states in the United States and internationally in 6 countries. Visit them at www.bolostick.com. For Safety 365, I'm Bill Barna reminding you to be aware, be proactive, and stay safe.
Safety 365.